Before I start the show, I want to talk about StarStock. The site has now launched in beta, and you can deposit, purchase cards, view your collection, and flip those cards in the marketplace with more being built. StarStock is building a sports card marketplace aimed to be faster and cheaper for flipping sports cards than any other platform. They're currently looking for people who want to submit their cards to sell on the platform. Here's what they're offering: a 5% commission, no ingestion fees, you send in your cards and they do all the work. The cards are guaranteed and secured in a vault, and you can choose to ship your cards back at any time. You can buy, flip, or store cards with a click of a button. If you're interested in getting involved as a seller, contact mike@starstock.com. StarStock is only looking for rookie cards and prospects of current players. For more details, contact mike@starstock.com. And let's get on with the show. You're listening to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute, a podcast where we discuss both the hobby and business sides of collecting. I'm your host, Mike Sommer, and I want to help you buy, sell, and trade your way into a collection you'll love. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute. One of the things I love most about doing this show is the conversations I get to have with a wide range of collectors. Some of them have been collectors a long time. Some of them are newer to the hobby. Some like to buy and sell, and some are just pure collectors. Well, today I've got another interview with somebody who is a pretty new voice in the hobby, and it's Ronnie Bardah. He's a professional poker player. He's won a World Series of Poker bracelet. He's also been a contestant on Survivor, and he is a card collector, and he's collected at a varying level of intensity over his lifetime, and we get to talk a little bit about that, what he likes about collecting, what some of his favorite cards are to collect, and about some of the other things that he's done in his life. So I hope you enjoy getting a chance to hear from a fresh voice in the hobby. We'll get to that conversation with Ronnie right after I tell you about one of my sponsors. Have you heard of Underdog Collectibles? They're a new shop in Knoxville, Tennessee, but they're available to you everywhere through their website, udogcollect.com. You can join them this week as they break Bowman baseball, Mosaic basketball, and some other new products. Don't forget to use the code WaxPackHero for $5 off your first break of $20 or more. Today we've got another guest on the line. We have Ronnie Bardah. Ronnie is a professional poker player. He has been a contestant on Survivor, but he is also a sports card collector. And so we're going to talk to him a little bit about probably all three of those things. Ronnie, welcome to the show. Why don't we just start with a little bit of your background and, what you've been up to and how and when you got into cards and kind of what's your collecting story?
Sure. My name is Ronnie Bardah, as you know, and I was born and raised in Brockton, Massachusetts. It's a town about 15 minutes south, 20 minutes south of Boston. Inner city. I basically have the same story as like 90% of collectors my age, right? The big card boom, baseball card and sports cards boom in the early 90s, late 80s. For me, the first time I got really interested in the cards is seeing the David Robinson Hoops 89 rookie card. Which I never got my hands on. Never could get one. I might as well just probably buy one now. I still don't have the card. But because I started collecting in 1990 or 91, and even that like 1 or 2 year gap, I remember looking in the Beckett and it was like $30, and I was like, that's a lot of money. Like, how am I gonna afford this card? So I had all the 90s hoops, which they made millions of hoops. 90s hoops was like the first set I made. And then the 89 Upper Deck Griffey rookie, I finally got one like 10 years ago. I had to buy one in a 9. But yeah, I got into collecting baseball cards like in the early 90s. The boom, the Shaquille O'Neal gold card rookie was like my favorite card. I had like 2 of those, and yeah, I just really got into going to card shows and the flea markets and collecting my favorite players like Jordan and what have you. And yeah.
Now, did you ever take a break? Many of us collectors that collected as a kid, we kind of took a break in our later high school years or college age years, 20s.
You started liking girls, you're like, well, we can put the cards aside, right? So, yeah, basically from, I would say 1995, 96 is when I took a break, when I turned about 14, when I hit puberty, or like playing sports and being outside all the time, playing ball and what have you. Occasionally I'd buy a pack or two and look for a Kobe Bryant's rookie or what have you. But that I basically took a break from 1996 to 2009. I started playing professional poker in 2005, and in the casino, in Foxwoods Casino, there was a gentleman by the name of Myron Bernstein, who was like basically an uncle to me. I love the guy. We keep in touch with all the time. He's a huge collector, and he got me kind of back into it. He's like, hey, you know, we're speaking about baseball cards. He was the type of guy who would be at the poker table, and he would ask everybody while he's playing, or he'd talk to somebody, you know, get to know them, be like, hey, do you have any old sport cards, you know? And he would try to find these, like, you know, diamond in the rough or like huge collections that people would have, and he's done a really good job at it. I mean, recently he bought a whole 86 Flair basketball set 5 years ago for $600, and the Jordan out of that graded a 9, and he found so many gem mint 10s, and literally like the worst card was an 8. So yeah, so Myron got me back in 2009, and then I would say I collected pretty hard from 2009 to like 12, but in and out, and then took a break around 2013 and recently got back into it. I buy a card here and there over the years from 2013 to now, but since this pandemic and this quarantine happened, I think a lot of us are like, hey, look at my old collection, and that's why I think all these numbers on eBay are just skyrocketing, and it's a seller's game right now, to be honest. You know, I think.
Yeah, the prices have been going through the roof. So some of that time was when you were actively playing poker. Did you know many other poker players who collected as well?
Yeah, a kid of the name of Josh Brickus. He has a business called Brickus Breaks, where he puts these wax packs on lines, and you buy a certain share or whatever, and you get like card number 6. I don't know exactly how. I've never participated in some of his breaks, and I've never actually been part of one. I'm sure you have. You're more knowledgeable than I am on that.
Now, I understand that you've undertaken quite a vintage project, and that you're currently trying to complete an entire 1953 top set. Can you tell me about what kind of prompted that?
It's been a task as well. It feels like it's been like half a life mission now. So like I said, going back to the early 90s, in 1993, Topps came out with a 40-year 1953 anniversary set. And there were also, they put like other players in there. I think there was a young lady, Eleanor. She was like one of the best lady baseball players ever. That was like, they added her to the set because like they produced, the set was supposed to be from 1 to 280 and then numbered 1 to 280, but there were 6 cards that had to be taken out because of like contract beefs between Bowman and Topps.
Okay.
So I think they replaced them with a few stars, like Ted Williams is in the reprint set, Hank Aaron, and this young lady and a couple other people. But anyways, what prompted it was that I just really loved that reprint set, and I thought the cards are so beautiful. And having the Beckett, going back and seeing some of these, the real cards, which I couldn't afford, obviously, at age 11. Right. My dad was never going to give me money. I saved money from doing, my paper route and, selling the Grand Hills I got out of packs and what have you, and trading with friends. But I really loved the 1953 set. And then in 2009, when I met Myron in 2005, he kind of got me back into it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to complete this. I'm going to get all the real 1953 cards. And I decided to do it from a 7 to an 8 or 7 plus. If I got a hold of an 8.5 or a 9, obviously I put it in my set if I could afford it, if it was a good buy at the time or whatever, or I was running well and doing well playing cards and I would just splurge. But I went on eBay and I found like a starter set of 7s. It was like, I wouldn't call it a starter set. I'll call it like a small lot, like of, I think, maybe 18 different like cheap 7s that I bought for like $20 a piece. So yeah, that's what prompted me that's what got me back into it. And over the years, I think I got about 100 of them from 2009 to 11. And then since 11 till the quarantine, about another 50. And now in quarantine, I bought around another 60. So I'm about 72 or 73%. And I've registered my set on PSA under Survivor Ron. So if you want to check it out, you can check it out. I'm probably like number 50th. My goal is to get in the top 20 sets in the world. And I just love the art. I love the art. Like all the guys like are kind of painted. It's like painted portraits of everybody. And I love it.
One of the questions I had was if you were going after it raw or graded or a combination of both, but it sounds like you're going after a PSA graded set then.
Yeah, I'm going after a PSA graded set. I'd buy SGC. I'll buy Beckett if I feel like I could convert over or possibly get a higher grade. But, I bought a Jackie Robinson Beckett. I have some other – I bought in some raw – I have some raw 53s upstairs as well. But if I can find a good deal at a card show or on eBay or any of these other auctions, I pick up a PSA.
One of the other questions that I was just curious about too is, do you collect much modern stuff too, or do you collect other sports other than baseball? I know you said you did as a kid, but currently do you?
Currently, I do love basketball as well. I'm trying to get my hands on, like, I love Pete Maravich and, old Will Chamberlains and Julius Ervings. I have a decent set of, probably have maybe over 100 Jordans that I collected back in the day. I don't have the 86 Flair rookie, unfortunately.
It's on my Mount Rushmore of cards to get as well. I hope that at some point I'm able to track one of those down. You talked about, though, the balance of your interest in some of those more modern cards and some of the vintage cards. What is it you think that appeals to you most about vintage cards?
For me, it's being able to look at a card that comes from the 50s and feel like you're actually back in that time for me. And like, I can name all these pre-steroid era. I name all these guys and who they are. I probably can come up with 3 or 4 modern baseball players right now. I don't really follow like baseball at the moment, but like for me, this feels like Mickey Mantle, Duke Schneider, all the guys from the past, like Satchel Paige and Robinson and Mays. They really encapsulate baseball, and it's like best. I don't know. For me, I don't know. It's something weird. It's like nostalgic about old baseball and what it used to be. Like watching the movie like The Sandlot that took place like in the 60s or 50s or whatever, or in A League of Their Own with Tom Hanks and all these old movies, and just Babe Ruth. That's a card that I should have. I should have a Gaudy Ruth. I turned away like 7 years ago to show that 5x in price. So many things you cry about, that you had these deals in your hand and you're like, I'll just wait on it, and you had the money and you didn't buy it. But anyways, to answer your question, I just love vintage. I love like the 50s and 60s. 50s were a great time in America, post World War II, things were coming back, women were getting out there, life was changing as you know it, and it was just a good time in the States. I've had dreams about being back in the 50s and opening these packs and pulling these heroes out of them, and being able to collect the sets back then.
There seems to be somewhat, especially in this current era that we're in, a growing level of crossover between some DFS players and some poker players and some other people in the sports betting world, and they're starting to get into sports cards. At least that's what it seems. Is that something that you've noticed amongst other poker players or other gamblers that you're familiar with?
Yeah, and it's pretty surprising. Like especially since this quarantine's happened, we're all indoors, we're all on Twitter or on social media, and I get surprised every other day learning about a player that I've known over the years that actually has a collection or collects cards. I'm like not so surprised, but I'm actually still actively buying and selling. My friend Kevin Colenso has got a decent collection. A lot of guys like this guy Blake Bowen had a Jordan he was selling online recently that was ungraded. I think poker players, we love to gamble, we like to invest our money in things that are we feel like has a decent chance of skyrocketing, and I think I'm not surprised. A lot of guys who gamble collect sports cards. Anywhere we can see a return on investment, we put our money in.
It's that whole taking a chance, see your money grow, not know for sure what's going to happen, but kind of take a calculated risk into generating an increasing return, right?
That's basically what I want to say. Thanks for putting the words into my mouth. I appreciate you. I'm pretty nervous. I've never done a sports cards podcast or interview or anything to do with cards. I feel like I'm a baby in this world, so I appreciate you having me on. So I'm kind of a little nervous here, so I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no worries at all. I mean, that's part of why I like having some of these conversations, is just get a chance to talk with other collectors that come from all walks of life about their hobby. And we're all in different places with our collection, with our collecting background. And it's just fun to hear about other people's stories and other people's journeys. One other question on the 53 set. What has been the toughest card for you to get so far?
Okay, so what I already have, I would say the Willie Miranda was really one of the toughest cards. I have it here. The population on them was extremely low. It's a Dominican guy, one of the first Dominicans to play the game. It's a high number. It's like the third to last card. You see it there. When you look up this card and it's not even listed in the PSA book, and it's a common, but in the, I think, Beckett Vintage, you can actually see what we go by now is we go on eBay, right? And we look at cards that were last sold for and what they're pulling. But this card, when I looked up the set and I was doing a lot of research, came up as one of like the top 3 or 4 cards that are one of the toughest to get. This one, the Roy McMillan, Willie Mays as well. But I paid, I think, $1,100 or $1,150 for this card.
Okay.
And if you just looked it up in a book, some guy would be like, oh, the 7.5 common, it costs like $90 or what have you. But that's not the case. There's only like, I think, 100 of them total in all grades. No, not 100, maybe a little under 200, I believe. I have to look it up. But it's very low pop, especially in higher grade. So that was a really tough card.
One of the other things I wanted to touch on, because I can't imagine having a former Survivor contestant on the show without at least touching on Survivor a little bit. And you were on season 39, I believe, right? Which was the season that kicked off in late 2019?
Yes, sir. The premiere was in September of 2019. I only got to play in the game for 3 days. I was the first boot off of my season, which was hard to deal with, and it was heartbreaking, obviously, at the time, and still pretty fresh. But it's been a lot to deal with that and that failure. But it's an accomplishment in its own to get on the show. Hundreds of thousands of people have auditioned, and only 500 players have ever played. 500 people have ever played the game. So,
what did you do for your audition video?
I had it posted on my Twitter actually recently. I'll put it back up there. But I shot a little film of me like walking around in Venice Beach, talking to people, talking to strangers. I show some of my my accomplishments in the poker world. Winning a bracelet in 2012 and breaking a record of the World Series of Poker, and just showed my personality. And what Survivor wants to see is they want to see you be able to tell a story. They want to see a good talker. They want to see somebody who's animated and out of their mind, and basically just an exciting person with an exciting story, right? Yep. Somebody who has like a background they can speak about, and they're able to tell their story. So that's what Survivor's about, is just basically being able to tell what's going on around you. And if you can do that, and you have a decent personality, and you're in decent shape, you'll have a decent chance.
Now, if I understand correctly, you mentioned that you were the first person voted out of your season. But if I understand correctly, there were some underlying medical issues that maybe were contributing to you not being up to 100% as the season got started. Would you mind sharing a little bit about what was going on there?
Sure. So when I was casted and when I went to finals, I was perfect, healthy as I always have been. I got casted, but I went through finals. Everything, I was ready to play, and we had about 4 months. I not to sound cocky, I knew they don't tell you right after finals if you're on or not. But if you get to the last stage, they give you your shots, and you have to wait about 3 months, and they usually call you about a month and a half before you take off and go to Fiji and start filming. So about 2 months or 2.5 months before going out, and about a month before I got the phone call, I started getting all these urinary symptoms and pelvic floor symptoms. So you go to the doctors, and they tell you got nothing, no infection, nothing's going on. We don't know what's up, but take these antibiotics, and just as a precaution. I listened to them. I took those pills, didn't work out. Seen numerous amount of doctors, told them what I was feeling, the symptoms, couldn't figure out. In the process, I was taking tons of pills. I was on my 3rd course of antibiotics within a few months with no present infection or nothing, treating me for prostatitis, treating me for, epididymitis, treating me for this, for that. And unfortunately, nothing worked. I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I had no new diagnosis. On paper, I'm as healthy as can be. Every scan, every blood test, everything was fine. And I wasn't going to just back out of my dreams and call CBS and say, hey, something's going on. I don't know what it is, but I probably shouldn't play. Right. So I just was so confident and optimistic that, with 2.5 months, I was like, oh, something's wrong. I'll figure it out. And as it got closer and closer and closer, I had that same mentality. Even like 7 days before going out, I was like, all right, we're going to try this new pill that this doctor gave me. It's like my 5th or 6th different pill. This should work. I think he knows what it is. Let's take it. and literally like was taking it as I was flying out to Fiji. I filled the prescription the day I left for Hollywood to fly out there. Yep. And when I got out to Fiji and I met Jeff Probst and all the, production again, they could see something was wrong. And they're like, okay, what's going on here? And we spoke about it. And I said, listen, I don't really know what's going on. I'm not feeling that great, but I have these pills I'm trying. I'll be fine. And ultimately, when you're in tons of pain and you deal with chronic pain and you don't know what's going on, it has this mental toll it takes on you as well. And you start to lose your mind and the fear of not knowing what's up and having this once in a lifetime opportunity. And it was just the worst timing ever. And, you play the game, you do all this pregame stuff with media and what have you. You're out there and you're trying to mask the pain, but the pain is so hard you couldn't even sleep because you're like, you got to sleep in the wild. I mean, you watch Survivor, yep. Right? You got to build shelter, you got to build bonds and relationships with all these people. And when you're dealing with so much pain, it's really hard to like be yourself. But these people don't know who you are. They think this is you, Right. So, it was kind of like a dream turned nightmare, to be honest, in those first few days out there. I didn't get any sleep. My tribe thought I was the weirdest person ever, sure. And ultimately it led me being first out, which I still think even if I was portrayed and I was seen and perceived as this crazy weirdo, they should have kept me for my physical strength because I was a beast in the challenges, even though I was in a lot of pain.
Since then, though, things have improved.
Yeah, so I got back, and obviously my priority was obviously let's figure this out. And I went to the Mayo Clinic for a week and a half, and in Arizona, and they just threw more antibiotics at me. I seen a neurologist. I got a colonoscopy. I seen a urologist. And they're obviously an overall primary doctor that links you and figures out what's the plan, and she couldn't figure it out, and they just wanted to give me more antibiotics or more antidepressants to calm the nerves in that area. And then I found this lady about 2 months later in Denver that was actually a Survivor alumni, girl from season 36, actually helped me find, and she was able to diagnose me with a condition called pudendal neuralgia, which is a nerve condition in the pelvic floor. The nerve runs through your stomach and branches off into your genitalia, into your rectum, into all that area. You have all these nerves that are very delicate and sensitive that run through your stomach into your pelvic floor. And if they're irritated, they can wreak havoc and cause these symptoms that feel like are life-threatening. Okay, and if you look up the condition, it's noticed as one of them, like some of the worst pain you could ever have. And the chronic pain effects and what mental toll it takes on it's quite debilitating. So it was nice to have a diagnosis. I got some treatment since. I've improved about almost to 100%, I would say. It's just nice to know that what you do have is not going to kill you. But, I'm sure if, people who are listening to this can relate in terms of chronic pain, especially when you don't know what's the underlying cause, can really take some really serious effect on your mental health as well.
I'm glad to hear that you found some treatment that seems to be working and getting you close to back to normal. As you were describing some of those sensations, I was curious if cards were on your mind at all in that. I know there are some people when they're dealing with some of those things that are both either physical ailments or even mental ailments. There's a lot of collectors who will talk about how spending time going through their cards, looking back at what they've got, tracking things down is something that helps provide them some a mental break or provide them some comfort through that. I was just curious did cards at all come up in your life as you were going through that, or was that the last thing on your mind?
No, it wasn't the last thing on my mind. That's very cool that you brought that up, because I think collecting cards is like a break away from a lot of other things. It can take your mind off problems that you're having in your life, either you're going through a divorce, or if you lose somebody in your life, or if like before this happened, I was at the clubs all the time. I would go out and play basketball. I work out a ton, and this is kind of like a small mini roadblock in my life. And I wouldn't call it, I'm downplaying when I say mini. It was a pretty huge roadblock. So cards were an escape where I could, going and looking at my collection and being able to buy and get excited when you get the package in the mail, when you make a sale. It really brings you joy instead of I'm not going out nightclubbing. I don't drink anymore since this happened, right? So I'm like different things I've kind of exited in my life, and now I think cards are replacing, you know, getting back into the hobby has filled some of the void that I've lost in terms of like partying a bunch or going out to the bars, going out to nightclubs, you know, working out 6 days a week like I used to. I don't anymore. So, you know, sports cards have definitely helped fill that, and have definitely helped cope with some of the pain and some of the mental stress, I would say, for sure. They brought joy. They bring joy to my life. I love baseball cards. They make me smile. You know, I love seeing what cards go off on eBay, the bidding wars, seeing what cards are like blowing up or gaining traction, what cards are hot right now because of The Last Dance, or, you know, seeing the mantles just explode over the last few years. It made me smile and cry.
Well, thanks a lot for coming on. I really enjoyed having the conversation. It's like I said before, I enjoy having conversations with collectors from all walks of life, and that's part of what I want to do on the show, is just introduce the audience to new collectors that come from all walks of life, collecting with all different collecting focuses, and I think we hit on that today. And so thanks for doing that. I want to give you a chance. Where can people follow you at, and let people know what they can where they can track you down?
So sure, I'm at Ronnie Bardah on Twitter. I'm Ronnie _Bardah on Instagram. That's where I'm mostly active. You can catch me once hopefully this pandemic comes to an end with a vaccine or some kind of treatment. Hopefully get around it. But when that does, you can find me at any casino, mostly the Bellagio in Vegas. I play the limit mix games and some of the bigger no limit games, or find me in LA and the certain poker clubs running around. Yeah, right now I'm a bit in a transition period in life. I did what I had to do in the poker world. I still enjoy playing poker. I still love it. It's one of my passions. But I'm ultimately trying to figure something else out. And like a lot of poker players are now as well, they're trying to, you know, do something else with their lives. If it's opening a business, or, you know, my friend Donnie, who set this podcast up and reached out to you, said I should get into buying and selling baseball cards at a higher level. Is it an idea?
Yep.
Maybe, you know, but I love being a collector more per se than somebody who's trying to turn a profit. I sold my first card on eBay though the other day.
There you go.
But I'm hoping that I brought enjoyment to people that are listening to this podcast, that people that can relate to me or have some of the same similar stories. And I really, really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoyed it as well. Thanks again.
Yeah, and good luck to you in finishing that 69 set. I know you got that Noel Ryan to get.
Yeah, that's the last one I got. Is Nolan Ryan's the last one to track down.
And when you're done, you're gonna go with 68.
Yep, 68 will be next, and the Ryan in that one will be the other.
That'll be a tough card to get, yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Thanks again to Ronnie for coming on the show. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. It's not every day you get to hear from somebody who's been on Survivor and has won a World Series of Poker bracelet. And I just really enjoyed hearing the excitement and the passion that he has around tracking down his 1953 set. Well, let me know what you think. Reach out to me on Twitter at @TheMikeSummer. Send me an email at waxpackhero@gmail.com. And as always, I'd love if you left a rating and review on your podcast app of choice. I'd really appreciate that. And don't forget to check out the Hobby Hotline live every Saturday morning. It's a call-in show where you, the listener, get to call in and have a conversation with fellow collectors about the cards that you love. Well, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks, and I'll catch you next time.